King Charles only sorry to devastated crowds after confrontation with angry protester. King Charles and Queen Camilla were only sorry they couldn't greet more well-wishers after a royal walkabout in Australia lasted just minutes following an angry protest. As the royal couple continued their trip to Australia today, they travelled to Canberra where the King gave a speech at Government House. However, after his speech a furious Indigenous politician confronted the royal couple, and approached the stage as dumbfounded MPs and guests stood by, shouting "You are not my king." Yelling at the King and Queen as royal protection officers attempted to lead her out of the building, Senator Lidia Thorpe said, "You committed genocide against our people. Give us our land back, give us back what you stole from us. Our bones, our skulls, our babies, our people." Hello viewers, please remember to subscribe and click on the notifications bell icon, so you will be notified whenever we upload new cookies about the British royal family. You destroyed our lands, give us a treaty, we want a treaty in the country, you are a genocidalist. This is not your land, this is not your land, you are not my king, you are not our king. She was also heard shouting "Not my king" and "FK the colony" as she was led out. After the incident, a planned walkabout took place outside the Parliament building, where dozens of well-wishers had been waiting in the blazing Canberra sunshine since 8 a.m. to catch a glimpse of the King and Queen. However, the meet and greet only last a few minutes with some left devastated after the royals spent less than 10 minutes saying hello to the crowds. However, a palace source denied it had been cut short due to the commotion inside the chamber and said the schedule had been running 15 minutes over, with their majesties sorry they couldn't greet everyone. They explained, their majesties were deeply touched by seeing and hearing the very many thousands who'd turned out to support them, and are only sorry they didn't have a chance to stop and talk to every single one. The warmth and scale of the reception was truly awesome. While they are grateful to all the crowds, their majesties particularly enjoyed hearing individual stories of those who'd made such a special effort to be there. King Charles confronted by another reminder of angry protester as he continues with tour. As King Charles sought to move on from yesterday's verbal attack at Parliament House, he was dealt another reminder of the protest as he kicked off his penultimate day in Australia. Arriving at the National Centre for Indigenous Excellence in Sydney, he was greeted by Elder Alan Murray from the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, who alluded to Lidia Thorpe's controversial outburst on Monday. He said, "Welcome to country. We've got stories to tell, and I think you witnessed that story yesterday in Canberra, but the story is unwavering and we've got a long way to achieve what we want to achieve, and that's our own sovereignty. But welcome to Gadigal land." Charles, 75, nodded as Alan spoke. Welcoming him to the centre, the elder added, "We are proud sovereign people." Another pulled out a lighter to start the smoking ceremony. The King said, "I was out in the bush in Victoria in 1966 trying to get the fire going was a problem because we didn't have one of those." He wafted the smoke, which signifies a welcome to Indigenous land, and gathered around the outdoor fire pit with members of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. In the sports hall, the King was impressed with a dance performance from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander performers. Greeting the dancers afterwards, he said tried jumping the air himself and said, "That looked like a good exercise. I don't think I can still do it at my age." He also spoke to Gomet Rangers and members of the Inner City Empowered Communities Group, which provides services to the local First Nations communities in Sydney. Before heading to Parramatta for a community barbecue, the King spoke privately with a number of First Nations elders. King Charles takes cautious pace in Australia amid concerns over cancer, analysis by Cameron Walker. When King Charles arrived at a church in northern Sydney this morning in an extra-large motorcade with an emergency ambulance on standby, the energy from the crowd of well-wishers appeared to lift the monarch's spirits. His Majesty smiled and waved to hundreds of patriotic Australians, and spent a good chunk of time meeting many of them outside St Thomas Anglican Church following the Sunday morning service. King Charles, 75, looked full of energy, having spent a day resting in Sydney's Admiralty House, which I'm told was planned to keep up his stamina to endure long days of official engagements. On Saturday, the royal couple was spotted relaxing in the grounds, which overlooks the Sydney Opera House, taking a gentle stroll. Both Charles and Camilla are known for their love of walking. But spending time on the ground observing His Majesty down under, there are subtle signs his health issues have followed him. The King arrived at the church service around 10:30 a.m. local time, but his final engagement appeared to be over by lunchtime, unless there are some unannounced visits or work that His Majesty was busying himself with this afternoon. The lighter workload suggests he could still be taking it as easy as possible to avoid damaging his cancer recovery. Royal doctors have allowed him to pause his cancer treatment while he is touring New South Wales and Canberra, but the workaholic King is understood to have been urged not to push himself too far. Monday's final two engagements, private audiences with Australia's Governor-General, Sam Mostyn, and the Governor of New South Wales, Margaret Beazley, took place in the very residence he is staying in Australia. In other words, not a long commute to the drawing room. However, the King had enough energy to deliver an informal, but powerful, speech to the New South Wales Parliament House earlier today, which is celebrating the bicentenary of its Legislative Council. The King said, "What a great joy it is to come to Australia for the first time as sovereign, and to renew a love of this country and its people which I have cherished for so long." Despite his health battles, the King clearly has a deep affection for the country where he reigns as head of state and wanted to come here in person to immerse himself in different communities. Busier days lie ahead on this royal tour, and it appears His Majesty is walking before he starts running. Perhaps the King is familiar with the fable The Tortoise and the Hare, and its famous moral, slow and steady wins the race. King Charles' unconventional hobby he shares with Kate Middleton. King Charles is renowned for his love of the outdoors. From championing sustainability to painting picturesque landscapes and crafting award-winning gardens, the monarch has a long-standing fascination with nature. Charles's private residence, Highgrove House, is home to a kaleidoscopic wildflower meadow teeming with 120 different plant species and 30 beehives. The bees produce a royal garden honey that can be purchased from the Highgrove Gardens website. The monarch also has treasured beehives at Clarence House and Buckingham Palace. According to The Independent, each hive contains an estimated 20,000 bees. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and drop comments, and most importantly don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything.